it's interesting because if you look back 10, 15 years ago, or even in some projects today, the entire management of material on, material off is a case of order something, we need it, we're doing stud partition, we're doing walls, order up X number of bales of gypsum board,
and usually the day before.
And the day before, fill it out on whatever floors we're doing, let's start putting it in, whatever waste we have, that comes all out into a skip.
Yeah.
It's not, sometimes not even sorted, it's
Correct.
just into a skip and back out. But there's no formality, structure, or organization. I don't want to insult anybody here, but in terms of that efficiency of material organizations, kind of what I'm talking about, kind of doesn't exist. We're still kind of just ordering it the same way you do your own extension at home, you know?
Exactly.
How many
what
boards
do we need?
I think 15, 200,
Turn
2,000.
up in the morning, what do we need tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly.
And it has been that approach. And I think it's all this requirement for this reporting that has changed that.
Yeah.
Because construction, as you and I know, right, it is a very demanding industry.
Yeah.
You need to get stuff done very, very quickly. Yeah. And I think in the past, that's how it's been. And it is changing now because of this reporting. If you work with SiteHub, you do have to change the way you work.
Yeah.
Because we take over the ability to, bring materials in.
Yeah.
We help the subcontractors and suppliers to make sure that when they do order materials, that it's properly planned.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you want is 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning is 5 big trucks coming at the same time,
all
and then
parked outside,
and then no one can get into the site.
Yeah.
And all packed outside, exactly. So we do come in and actually take ownership of that part. And that is a change.
Yeah.
But we can do that because the clients and the customers are saying, we need the reporting, we need to professionalize things. And what they've also become wiser to is that on these construction sites, a lot of and they're highly paid people, these craftsmen, electricians, VVS, all these people, carpenters, highly paid people. But about 50% of their time is waiting time.
Yeah.
It's either 20% of like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
I can't get access to where I should be.
Yeah. Material's not there yet.
Material's not there. Or 30%, they're literally acting as movers. Yeah. I'll move this big pallet from here to there so we can start working on it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time that you waste.
Right?
And essentially that's what we do. We come in with people who can professionalize that process so that the guys who are paid highly and should be working are having more time to work.
Yeah.
And that's the model really for the logistics and operations side on site.
Creating efficiency in the process, right? Yeah. We talk about this the whole time, the value of digitization, the value of BIM, the value of data, data mining, data management. It's that it creates efficiencies so you can do more with less.
Yes.
So that the people, as you say, that are paid those top dollars are actually doing what they're paid to do and not standing around wondering, well, where do I go next? That material's not there. Or it's like the QS and the cost manager, I say manually measuring. Manually measuring is inefficient.
Yes.
And if you're a senior commercial manager manually measuring, there's something very, very wrong in the process, because that should be digitized. Someone has prepared that drawing. Where is that drawing prepared? It's prepared in that model. If it's prepared in the model, why aren't we getting that information
exactly.
digitally?
I think it's also for you guys, compared to us, it's very similar because it's not just about digitizing.
Yeah.
I think that's a big learning for us. Like you can just say, if we were just selling software now, and we were saying to the guys on the sites, just use this software, it'll solve everything.
Yeah.
It's also important that you solve the problem. And we've really tried to focus on solving the problem fully by also having consultants that solve that issue along with the software. I think that's a key thing that we try to focus on.
Yeah, it's providing the software with a service behind it to manage
it's the solution.
Yeah.
Here you are, this is your problem, here's your solution.
Yeah. And
fully.
And that can become challenging. And some people would like to take it on themselves, of course. As we know in cost management, a lot of architects, engineers take on that responsibility themselves. It's tradition in the industry. The reality is that sometimes or more often than not, it's better to outsource that, like site logistics.
Yeah.
Very few clients or contractors would consider outsourcing that because they'd look at it as,
we can do it.
Yeah, we can do it. How could it possibly be more efficient to bring a subcontractor or a consultant or whatever in to do that? Sure, we'd only be paying them. Why don't we pay our own guys?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've experienced that. We've experienced that, and that's why we also focus on projects of a certain size, essentially large projects that have a key criteria to be, we need to get done.
Yeah.
And it needs to get done fast.
Yeah.
And we need to essentially pay for the services that can help us do that in the most efficient way. That's why we also see in the future with the software, if you do want to do it yourself, no problem. Go do it yourself. Here's the help for that.
And I think you do target the large projects, the projects that are huge capital investments that sit on the top. But what'll happen over time is that it'll just become a way of working. And then the subcontractors and the people working on that project will see it and go, actually, I'm going to use that for all my projects. And that could be tier 2, 3, 4, 5 projects, or even the small projects as we become more digitized.
Essentially, everyone has these requirements to report on.
Yeah.
So they'll all have the same problems.
And we build and manage projects in the same way, regardless of the size and reality, you know.
I think the one place where it might not come, or the need will be less, is house building, because they have such a structured approach to house building. The components, the reporting becomes so much easier because they know what they're ordering. A lot of that can be solved through the ERP that they solve, that they use. So I think that's the area that's kind of okay. But on the tier 2, 3, 4, just normal commercial projects, they're going to have that need.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting how quickly it's changing. And the way we need to rethink how we're doing our projects, the sustainability aspect has driven all that.
Yeah,
your ESG reporting and understanding your materiality and where your materials are coming from, and are they from sustainable sources and sustainable materials, etc. If we consider timber, for example, we don't want to use timber coming from the rainforests. Exactly. You know, it needs to be properly managed forests and so on.
It's an interesting one, right? So one example of the reporting that we would have to help with is reporting on the materials. And a client might have a list of materials that it's a no-go. But what usually would happen, a contractor would compile the list of materials after the fact.
Yeah.
So because of course you've got a main contractor and then you've got a lot of subcontractors.
It's
the subcontractors who are ordering.
Yeah.
So the main contractor has no visibility on this until the end.
Yeah.
So it becomes very much a frantic effort to compile all this list, the DGMB, the ENG. How do you get all those records in
exactly
at the same time?
Yeah.
And they don't do it in real time.
No.
So there's one of the things our software does is as they order, whether it's the subcontractors or whether it's the suppliers, we have APIs after they give their permission to pull that information out
from the suppliers.
Where we get real-time list of materials that are coming to the site.
Yeah.
And then we can create rules. So if the tender says you can't have this type of material, you can't have this, or it needs to be forested.
Yeah. You're red flagged or whatever
we
the case.
flag it.
Yeah.
And we scan all the delivery notes so that the AI that we use will basically compile a list of materials, but also all the certificates.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we sort the software. Yeah. It's giving that other prong to our business.
And I guess that's answering the second part, is how you see it progressing the construction projects, is that real-time information. It's like traditionally the O&M manuals, and I'd say traditionally because we shouldn't be using them anymore, but we are, because they're still the requirements. It should be the digital asset, digital twin, whatever we want to call it. But the O&M manuals being compiled at the very end of the project frantically in order to be able to submit to get your final account and release a retention or whatever the contractual mechanisms are there. Whereas if you're doing it on the go, the process is so much easier for everybody, because what you're doing is you're closing off components of the building. For example, foundations. Same for what we do cost. We close off that substructure account because it's now completed. But close off all the information associated with that substructure so that you move on to the next component of the building or next stage of the building, etc. And we kind of struggle with that a little bit, I guess. While we do plan and organize as an industry, we're still not very good in collecting that information and data on the go. Right?
It's also really difficult. Yeah. We've probably spent about 18 million kronos on just developing the software.
Yeah.
So it's quite an investment to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Luckily, because of the consulting side, we can pay for that ourselves, which is avoiding the VC side.
Yeah.
But I see it a lot in how you describe it there, because if you can do it in real time, then you can flag things up.
Yeah.
But also you can benchmark your way forward.
Yeah.
So if you have a target for this much CO2 tonnage or kilograms, then if you are trending too high in substructure, in superstructure, then you can actually know, we need to make changes
to do something
at the end here, because otherwise, if you do at the end and you pass, then some big fines are going to be paid.
Exactly. It's the same. I'll reflect it back to cost management. If you're closing out components of the accounts as you're going through with your main contractor, it means that you know you're on target. Any variations, any changes, can we get them agreed? Can we get them done? What's our estimate to complete? The exact same for carbon. Yeah, exactly. What is our estimate to complete for carbon? Are we on track with the EPDs coming in against the budgets that we have set? And we talked to a couple of people before about EPDs and the budgets that we set. The reality from a client's perspective, the carbon budget they set is just the budget.
Yeah.
The contractor has responsibility to select the supplier.
Yes.
And the supplier has a responsibility to offer up the EPD.
Yeah.
You don't know that until you're going to the marketplace to test, right?
Yeah.
The different suppliers, the different prices, the different EPDs.
It's quite a long chain there, right?
It's huge, like, yeah. And the volume of information then to test all of that from a contractor's perspective, you know, that can't be done manually. That can't be, you know, Ross or Gary ringing up the supplier, having a chat with them, trying to find a price. That has to be a digitized workflow of some sort.
Exactly.
Surely. Otherwise, how inefficient is it going to be on these major projects, as you mentioned?
And right now, there's a lot of inefficiency going on because basically people are scrambling to get these certificates. Just to tick the box.
Just to tick the box,
in a way.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. It should, because that
there should be value in it.
There should be value in it for everyone. So I like the idea that you can get this information as you go.
Yeah. You have to. I think you have to do it in that way. Otherwise, it becomes impossible to manage later. If you're on a huge, major capital project and you're scrambling at the end, the amount of manpower that you'd need to put into it to gather all that information.
Exactly.
Retrospectively go back to understand who supplied the reinforcement in the foundation that we built 15, 20 months ago.
And one of them might have been fired.
And,
you know, or 10 of them might have been fired. They've moved on. They don't want to talk to you anymore and you can't get anything out of them.
Or the supplier suddenly is gone. They don't exist anymore, etc. Like, you know,
and that happens. So you need to be able to plan for that.